This is your man Aaron Wood back here in another True to Game videos, and we're going to be talking about a video response to Aaron's video on Moody Loner players. He called it a rant. It wasn't really a rant because you've ranted a few times, but that was not, in my estimation, really a rant. You bring up some good points, though. That sort of player is absolutely the balls. That sort of, that wants to play that character over and over again. Certainly anyone can make a character that sort of starts sliding in that direction, or without really thinking the entire thing through, a character that sort of comes out to be a bit too antisocial, too emo, I guess is what the kids now call it, and it really turned out to be rather terrible, which rather a whole tax on the game master and the players. Now, there are a few sort of games that I think they can sort of work into. And you mentioned that in World of Darkness, and I think in particular you're talking about Vampire. Werewolf, I don't think you're going to have that nearly as much, seeing it's a pack mentality game. I think that you definitely could have that in Vampire and have that sort of character still be to a degree viable. I don't think Vampire is a party style game. I don't like the whole concept of coterie. I think it's a very forced sort of idea for the most part. I think most vampires are more solitary because they know what they are and they know they can't trust each other unless you've bloodbound someone or have that sort of relationship where you've dominated them or have real leverage over them. I don't think the vampires are going to be that close. I've never really cared for the mechanic, and I do think it's a game that should be applied really more as a one-on-one style play, even if you have more players in there. So to a degree, I can sort of let that slide a wee bit in World of Darkness, but I think with Werewolf it wouldn't, and with Mage it probably wouldn't either. Now, overall, I've seen this sort of player before that will do this to an epidemic degree. They want to play that character over and over again. They refuse to interact. I had the misfortune of playing in a Pathfinder game where there were two people that wanted to do this, Bill and Manny, and it was absolutely horrendous. I actually just flipped out of Manny at one point, just started yelling at him, as it was messing up my fun. They were just, everything they did was secretive, and they'd pull away Game Master away and want to always make hide checks and not at any point ever role play with anyone, and somehow they were still somehow supposed to believe there was some degree of a party, and it was driving both the game masters absolutely. There were two people running the game. We had a big party. It was kind of an odd deal, but it worked out okay. Other than these two guys were just absolutely ruining the game for the game masters, and that they ended up canceling the game because of these two guys, and they had that sort of mentality. And Bill apparently does this all the time. They played two characters in that game, and a character in the next game I saw exactly the same thing, always running off, always trying to not be part of the group, trying to go off and do his own thing. And he has some bland, stagnant-ass things that were stank. And no one was, the game master was like telling me, I don't even want to have these scenes, they're so boring, and this just given the meantime, and then right back to where the action was. He tried to interrupt other people's stuff to get his monkey-ass ideas in, and no one was interested in that sort of trash, because he would completely refuse to play with the group, essentially. And apparently that was the guy's style pretty much all the time, trying to play a character that for some reason stalks behind the party, using hide and move silently in a Pathfinder game to not be seen by anybody, and yet throw daggers or whatever at the opposition if there was a fight or something. This is the most stupidest idea I've ever heard of for a character type. I just don't have any idea why anyone would do that. I could see maybe doing that to build in, for like a few hours in the first, like, okay, I'm going to build in until where the players discover me or something, and then it's probably going to be straight. But, it's just continuous. It was absolutely ridiculous and a huge pain in the ass. Fortunately, I don't really have to deal with that in my game. We'll flip out on somebody if they are just completely not trying to get with anything or to be curmudgeon and contrary to everything that's going on. I find that to be disrespectful to the whole process. Again, like I say, I think there are some exceptions where you can play more of a loner type character, and I certainly like to give people individual spotlights where they can go off and do their own thing, interact with NPCs without the other party members or other players, what have you, depending on the game, always being there right in their toes, because that does begin to get extremely unrealistic. One point though I did sort of have to disagree with you in that video though, Aaron, is you said you just put it all on the players to come up with reasons they're going to be together. I sort of had to disagree with that. I think the GM has at least some, if not a lot, of responsibility of reasons what party's going to be together, what catalyst gets them together in the first place, and why they're going to stay together. I think that's actually probably the important game to have as your first, and simply for that, how you players together, why they're going to be together. You know, it's something I take a lot of time to work out, trying to make it different and more dynamic than the same old deal. So I definitely would have to disagree and say that the Game Master has some, if not a lot, of responsibility in that. However, certainly the player does share in that as well, I think. Yeah, overall, I have to agree with you, man. The loner character type sucks, and once the player wants to play that epidemic from every character over and over again, I'm not going to interact with the party. I'm going to hide everyone. I'm going to do all this balls stuff that no one. That's absolutely terrible sort of. And it could completely ruin games because this sort of player did ruin that I was enjoying to play, and you know he did get yelled at that and his